Analyze in Excel is a Power BI service feature which generates an Excel report connected to a Power BI dataset. It's a similar workflow to exporting data, but it's far more sophisticated, since it creates a dynamic link to the dataset, and any subsequent changes in the dataset are reflected in the Excel report. Because of this greater sophistication, this feature requires either a Power BI Pro license or a premium workspace. It's also a feature which can be enabled or disabled at the administration level. So in order for this feature to work, it has to be switched on at the admin level, and it is activated by default. And let's have a look at the procedure for activating it if necessary. We click on the ellipsis menu and then go into Settings, Admin Portal, and here we click on Tenant Settings and scroll down to Export and Sharing Settings. And it's the export data setting that we're interested in. We simply have to make sure that this is enabled either for the entire organization or for everyone who really needs that facility. And let's also have a look at what happens when a user without a Pro license attempts to use this feature. So here I'm logged in as a free user, and in my workspace, if I click on Reports, this is the button that activates the feature, Analyze in Excel, and this is the message that free users will see, which is an invitation to upgrade your account to Power BI Pro. So now in the Exercises folder in 02 Excel from the Power BI service, let's open up the file called salesreport.pbix. So here we have a completed report, and one of the key things to note is that if we go into the sales table, when using the Analyze in Excel feature, we won't be able to use columns like the cost column, which is a numeric column, in the values area of our pivot tables. This is one of the key limitations of this feature. So when you're using this feature, it's important that the data set that you're connecting to has measures that you can use in your pivot tables and pivot charts. So let's look at the feature in action. So now let's publish our report, and I'll publish it into UK Sales, and of course you can publish it into any convenient location. And now let's go into the report. So UK Sales and Reports, and here's our sales report. So the feature that we're interested in is Analyze in Excel, and to get to it you simply click on this button. Another method is to go into the underlying dataset, click on the ellipsis menu, and you'll find Analyze in Excel there as well. And the first time you use this feature, you'll need to install some Excel updates. The message which pops up contains a download button, so you simply click on this and then download and install the update. So a very straightforward install. We simply click on Next, accept the license agreement, and click on Install. Once the install completes, we're good to go. So we click on the Finish button, and we can now use the Analyze in Excel feature. If the message pops up again, simply click on I've already installed these updates. And thereafter, the Power BI service will generate a special file with a .odc file extension. So we simply save this and then open it in Excel. And you can do this either from Excel or simply by double-clicking on the ODC file. If data connections have been blocked, you'll need to click on Enable. And here's another error which you may run into. This one normally occurs where you have more than one Power BI account, which is the case here. So I've signed into Excel using an account which also has a Power BI account attached to it. And this account is for a different Power BI tenant to the one that I'm currently attempting to connect to Excel. So what I need to do is to click OK and then sign in using the credentials for this particular Power BI tenant. So now that I've synchronized with the Power BI tenant that contains the dataset, we no longer have a problem. So we have an automatically created report, which at the moment just consists of a single pivot table. And then in pivot table fields, we have all of the fields that were available in the original data model. So if I just scroll down into sales, and let's say that we want to display sales by branch, so we switch on branch, which adds it to the row area. And the thing I want to remind you of is that we can't simply take a column like cost or revenue and add it to values. So let's look at what happens when we attempt to. It simply refuses to do it and gives us an error telling us that the field we're attempting to place cannot be placed into the values area. So when you're using this feature, it's important that your data model actually contains measures that you can use in the values area. So here we've actually got a total revenue measure, so we can pop that into values with no problem. And finally, just to point out that to access the refresh options for this connection, you go into the Data tab and click on Properties. And here, for example, you can set up a schedule, refresh every X minutes, and you can also switch on the option to refresh the data automatically when opening the file. So there you have it, Analyze in Excel, a very useful feature if you have Excel power users who you think may be able to benefit by connecting Excel to Power BI datasets. Power BI Publisher for Excel provides an alternative method of achieving the same objective. Let's create a new blank Excel file so we can have a look at this feature in action. We move across to the Power BI tab, and in the Power BI group, we have Connect to Data. And since I've already logged in, this gives me a list of all the reports and datasets to which I have access. And as we saw in the last video, since all my workspaces are of the new variety, none of them are listed. However, the reports and datasets in those new workspaces are all listed. So here's the sales report that I was looking at. And although Power BI Publisher is saying that it's in my workspace, it's actually in a workspace called UK Sales. So we'll highlight it and click on Connect. And you can see that we have exactly the same experience as we do when using the Analyze in Excel feature. So let's populate our pivot table with branch. And just to remind you that if we have no measures, we can't use the implicit measure facility. In other words, we can't drag revenue into the values area. So when you're using this feature, you always have to have measures available, so we can use our revenue measure with no problem. So as you can see, this is identical to the Analyze in Excel feature. It's just a different way of achieving the same objective. And we could argue that one of the main benefits is that you don't need an ODC file to generate the report.